Patron Minette. Part 1. Every human society has what is called in the theatres a third substage. The social soil is mined everywhere, sometimes for evil. These works are in strata. There are upper mines and lower mines. There is a top and a bottom in this dark subsoil, which sometimes sinks beneath civilization, and which our indifference and our carelessness trample underfoot. The encyclopedia, in the last century, was a mine almost on the surface. The dark caverns, these gloomy protectors of primitive Christianity, were awaiting only an opportunity to explode beneath the Caesars, and to flood the human race with light. For, in these sacred shades, there is a latent light. Volcanoes are full of a blackness, capable of flashing flames. All lava begins at midnight. The catacombs, where the first Mass was said, were not merely the cave of Rome, they were the cavern of the world. Society has hardly a suspicion of this work of undermining, which, without touching its surface, changes its substance. So many subterranean degrees, so many differing labours, so many varying excavations. What comes from all this deep delving? The future. The deeper we sink, the more mysterious are the workers. To a degree which social philosophy can recognize, the work is good. Beyond this degree, it is doubtful and mixed. Below, it becomes terrible. At a certain depth, the excavations become impenetrable to the soul of civilization. The respirable limit of man is passed. The existence of monsters becomes possible. Below all these mines which we have pointed out, below all these galleries, below all this immense underground Venus system of progress and of utopia, far deeper in the earth, lower than Marat, lower than Mabeuf, lower, much lower, and without any connection with the upper galleries, is the last sap, a fear-inspiring place. This is what we have called the third substage. It is the grave of the depths. It is the cave of the blind inferi. This communicates with the gulfs. There disinterestedness vanishes. The demon is demonly rough-hewn, everyone for himself. The eyeless eye howls, searches, gropes, and gnaws. The social Ugolino is in this gulf. The savage outlines which prowl over this grave, half brute, half phantom, have no thought for universal progress. They ignore ideas and words. They have no care but for individual glut. They are almost unconscious, and there is in them a horrible defacement. They have two mothers, both stepmothers, ignorance and misery. They have one guide, want, and their only form of satisfaction is appetite. They are voracious as beasts, that is to say, ferocious, not like the tyrant, but like the tiger. From suffering, these goblins pass to crime, fated filiation, giddy procreation, the logic of darkness. What crawls in the third substage is no longer the stifled demand for the absolute, it is the protest of matter. Man there becomes dragon. Hunger and thirst are at the point of departure. Satan is the point of arrival. Part 2. A quartet of bandits, Claquesous, Guillaumet, Babet, and Montparnasse, ruled from 1830 to 1835 over the third substage of Paris. Guillaumet was a Hercules without a pedestal. His cave was the Arche Marion sewer. He was 6 feet high and had a marble chest, brazen biceps, cavernous lungs, and a colossus body and a bird's skull. You would think you saw the Farnese Hercules dressed in duck pantaloons and cotton velvet waistcoat. Guillaumet, built in the sculptural fashion, could have subdued monsters. He found it easier to become one. The diaphanity of Babet contrasted with the meatiness of Guillaumet. Babet was thin and shrewd. He was transparent but impenetrable. You could see the light through his bones, but nothing through his eye. He professed to be a chemist. He had been barkeeper for Bobèche and clown for Bobino. He had played vaudeville at Saint-Mihiel. He was an affected man, a great talker, who had italicized his smiles and quoted his gestures. What was Claquesous? He was night. Before showing himself, he waited till the sky was daubed with black. At night he came out of a hole, which he went into again before day. Where was this hole? Nobody knew. In the most perfect obscurity and to his accomplices, he always turned his back when he spoke. Was his name Claquesous? No. He said, "My name is nothing at all." If a candle was brought to be put on a mask, he was a ventriloquist. Babet said, Claquesous is a night bird with two voices. Claquesous was restless, roving, terrible. It was not certain that he had a name. Claquesous being a nickname, it was not certain that he had a voice. His chest speaking oftener than his mouth, it was not certain that he had a face. Nobody having ever seen anything but his mask. He disappeared as if he sank into the ground. He came like an apparition. A mournful sight was Montparnasse. Montparnasse was a child, less than 20, with a pretty face, lips like cherries, charming black locks, the glow of spring in his eyes. He had all the vices and aspired to all the crimes. The digestion of what was bad gave him appetite for what was worse. He was the gamin turned vagabond, and the vagabond become an assassin. He was genteel, effeminate, graceful, robust, weak, and ferocious. At 18 he had already left several corpses on his track. More than one traveller lay in the shadow of this wretch, with extended arms and with his face in a pool of blood. Frizzled, pomaded, with slender waist, hips like a woman, the bust of a Prussian officer, a buzz of admiration about him from the girls of the boulevard, an elaborately tied cravat, a slung-shot in his pocket, a flower in his buttonhole, such was this charmer of the sepulchre. These four men were not four men. It was a sort of mysterious robber with four heads preying upon Paris by wholesale. It was the monstrous polyp of evil which inhabits the crypt of society. By means of their ramifications and the underlying network of their relations, Babet, Guillaumet, Claquesous, and Montparnasse controlled the general lying-in-wait business of the Department of the Seine. Originators of ideas in this line, men of midnight imagination came to them for the execution. The four villains being furnished with the single draft, they took charge of putting it on the stage. They worked upon scenario. They were always in condition to furnish a company proportioned and suitable to any enterprise which stood in need of aid, and was sufficiently lucrative. A crime being in search of arms, they sublet accomplices to it. They had a company of actors of darkness at the disposition of every cavernous tragedy. They usually met at nightfall, their waking hour, in the waste grounds near La Salpêtrière. There they conferred. They had the 12 dark hours before them. They allotted their employ. Patron Minette, such was the name which was given in the subterranean society to the association of these four men. In the old popular fantastic language, which is now dying out every day, Patron Minette means morning, just as entre chien et loup, between dog and wolf, means night. This appellation, Patron Minette, probably came from the hour at which their work ended, the dawn being the moment for the disappearance of phantoms and the separation of bandits. These four were known by this title. When the chief judge of the assize visited Lassanière in prison, he questioned him in relation to some crime, which Lassanière denied. "Who did do it?" said the judge. Lassanière made this reply, enigmatical to the magistrate, but clear to the police. "Patron Minette, perhaps."